Hello and welcome to the Orthodox View, where we discuss latest religious news from an Orthodox Christian perspective. I am its host, Philip Champion. In Serbia, in the context of the pandemic, the online activity of various sects has been growing. Deacon Nemanja Kalem, who lectures at the Belgrade Theological Seminary, spoke about this in an interview with the Serbian TV channel RTS. According to Father Nemanja, there are several types of sects that are active in Serbia. There are pseudo-Christian, pseudo-Hindu, Satanist, and syncretic. Most often their targets are teenagers, the elderly, and the lonely people. The recruiting usually takes place online. According to the expert, the sects have perfectly adapted to the conditions of the pandemic, transferring their activity to the virtual space. Their main goal is to lure money out of the gullible parishioners. I quote, "We live in a consumer society where parents are often absent from home and children are left to their own devices and are looking for virtual friends on social networks. Sometimes it is sects that hide behind such images of fake friends, and those sects are recruiting those children who are uneducated on topics of religion." The deacon believes that the most effective method of fighting sects is high-quality religious education in schools, which forms the correct religious outlook among young Serbs. Let us remind you that the Serbian Church is an active proponent of making the subject of religious education compulsory in schools. At the moment, it is only optional. A non-profit Christian organization called Cornerstone Action has supported a Catholic student's lawsuit against his school in New Hampshire. A student was suspended from college for saying that there were only two genders, male and female. It all started with a linguistic discussion on a school bus trip. The students were talking about differences between English and Spanish languages, when one of them noted an interesting fact. There is no neuter pronoun in Romance languages, which significantly complicates things if someone wants to address those people who do not consider themselves either male or female. Some students found such statements offensive. As a result, the incident became known to the school administration, which, in accordance with the policy of maximum respect for gender identity, temporarily suspended the guilty student from classes. According to lawyers and the family of the suspended student, the actions of the school administration are unacceptable and go against the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution regarding freedom of speech. Her Majesty the Queen, Elizabeth II, believes that the Gospel gave people hope during the coronavirus pandemic. She said this in a message to the opening session of the 11th General Synod of the Church of England. In her address, the Queen stressed that people were able to rely on their religious beliefs, and this helped them overcome the crisis. Her Majesty also noted how the Church had adapted and continued its ministry often in new ways, such as digital forms of worship. The Queen's words of gratitude came in handy for the Church of England, which, according to the British National Research Centre, is in serious crisis. Young people show no interest in religion whatsoever, and the average age of church visitors is 61 years old, with just over 1% of the British population attending church regularly. The pandemic has temporarily revived interest in religion in Britain. For instance, the Center for Economic and Political Research noted that in many countries of the world, including in Britain, in the first months of the pandemic, the number of Google searches with the word prayer increased by 50%. Online services in London drew thousands of viewers to the surprise of the priests themselves. However, researchers also note that interest in religion and then a sharp decline of that interest have always been observed during wars or major social changes. Full-fledged ministry of Orthodox Christian parishes is impossible in an online metaverse. This was stated by the deputy administrator of the Moscow Patriarchate, Bishop Sava of Zrinagrad, who said the following in an interview to the information agency Ridus. The concept of virtual Orthodox churches is nonsensical. Christianity has always been and will always remain about personal presence at the Last Supper. However, the gospel can be proclaimed anywhere. At the same time, in the virtual space, the risk of losing the sense of who one is speaking to is greatly increased. One should talk with a person, not with pixels. Plans to create the so-called Metaverse, a virtual space that would allow one to actually feel the physical presence of another person, was recently announced on Facebook. His Holiness Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia has repeatedly spoken about the risks of the concept of virtual space. He noted that acting in the virtual community must not become more important than ministering to people in real life. I quote, "The greatest risk here is that the main thing, the celebration of the divine service, the Holy Sacrament of Eucharist, becomes secondary." The Russian Serbian church, that is an exact copy of the Cathedral of the Miracle of the Archangel Michael in Konech, which was destroyed in Moscow in 1929, is being built in the center of the capital of the Republika Srpska. President of the Republic, Mr. Milorad Dodik, had personally showed the progress of construction to the ambassador of Russia in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Igor Kalabukhov, and said that the drawings of the sacred building were provided by the Russian Orthodox Church. The Church of the Miracle of the Archangel Michael in Konech was blown up in order to free up the territory for the construction of the 14th building of Moscow Kremlin. The unique frescoes of the church were prepared for preservation and removed. However, on the day of the demolition, the restorers could not find them among the construction waste of the already destroyed church. From November 18th to January 23rd, the Moscow Museum of Modern History will host an exhibition dedicated to the 300th anniversary of the Moscow Synodal Choir. The exposition will acquaint visitors with the history of the main Orthodox choir in Russia, starting from the 14th century. The exhibition features items and documents from more than 15 museums and archives in Russia, as well as from private collections. The exposition is unique in many ways. It presents a considerable number of previously unknown documents and artifacts. The Synodal Choir was officially established by Peter I, ordering to transfer Moscow church singers to the jurisdiction of the Holy Synod, at that time the governing body of the Russian Orthodox Church. The choir currently has 80 singers. In addition to participating in divine services, the Moscow Synodal Choir performs with various concert programs. Its geography of performances includes more than 40 countries around the world. Well, this is all for today. Thank you for watching and see you next time on The Orthodox View.